screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Refer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones, the holly suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The pomp received as mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight on Rogue Ways, we get to learn from a woman who has turned her passion for animals into a mission, saved hundreds of creatures, and helped at least as many humans. She is the founder of the Gentle Barn, a national nonprofit animal rescue and sanctuary with 3 locations across the U.S., the animal behaviorist, the expert in animal communication and training, and the author of Cow Hug Therapy. Ellie Laks, welcome back to Rogue Ways, and how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm so excited to be talking to you. These conversations make me so excited.
I'm so glad too. I love your message. I love your energy, and I love what you bring to the world. So I'm glad we get to dive into it again with your new book. I do want to let everyone out there listening or watching know that One Day of Brightness is coming up. It's on June 22nd. So you should grab your spot. It's just a few days or weeks away. And I can't wait to do healing, alignment, retuning, blessings, and upliftment with you all. You can go to calendly.com/rogueways and you can see One Day of Brightness there. Grab your spot. If you can't remember or find calendly.com/rogueways, you can also click over there from the site at rogueways.org or even from my Substack at rogueways.substack.com. If you're not already subscribed to my Substack, you should be. The free level and the paid level both have their perks and their connections. And also the Dreamwalking course is coming up. We're starting again this June 9th. So if you've been waiting for another Dreamwalking course, that is on the books. I hope to see you at both. And we'll get back to Ellie. So Ellie, your pointless question of the episode is this: what is the most relaxing thing to do in the summer?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course I'm going to say hugging cows.
That's a good point. Yeah, I should have known.
Hugging cows on a summer evening when the sun is setting and there's a cool breeze in Santa Clarita and the birds are chirping and the sky turns pink. That is what I'm talking about.
That's some pretty good vibes there. I'm digging that. It's so funny. I posted our episode today in one of my community chats, and the people in there were saying cow hugs. Like, I've hugged a tree, I've never hugged a cow. And someone else was like, oh, if a cow licks you, like, it's disgusting. And I was remembering back to my childhood, and my cow would lick us all the time. He'd lick our face, and it was like, it's kind of slobbery, but it's also so adorable. I feel like if you get to get licked by a cow, you're one of the lucky people in the world.
Oh, absolutely. And it's totally worth the slobber. Cows lick just like dogs do to show their love and affection.
Yeah.
My dogs lick me. Our cows lick us. So much love. So much
Yeah.
love.
It's true. It's one of the ways that they can communicate. So they do. Well, I know you're returning to the show. You've been back, or you've been here before, and we've talked a little bit, but I'm sure there's some people who missed you or didn't understand what exactly it is you do. And before we get into the book, like, what is the Gentle Barn? How are you drawn to it? What's going on there?
The Gentle Barn is a 25-year-old national organization located in Los Angeles, California, Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis, Missouri. Across the 3 locations, we have 200 rescued animals, and we take in animals that have nowhere else to go because they're too old, too sick, too injured, or too scared to be adoptable. We bring them in, we rehabilitate them with veterinary care and acupuncture, massage therapy, chiropractic, music therapy, energy healing, animal communication, nutritional supplements, and of course, lots and lots of love. If when they're happy and healthy, if we can find a home and family of their own, we do. But if they need ongoing care for the rest of their lives, then we give them sanctuary. And if and when they're ready, we partner with them to heal people with the same stories of trauma and connect people to the love and magic of animals. The Gentle Barn is open to the public every Sunday, so people can come and hug the cows, cuddle the turkeys, give the pigs tummy rubs, hear their stories of resilience, and realize that though we may look different, we are all the same. And during the week, we host school field trips, private tours, our legendary cow hug therapy sessions, and other healing modalities for hurting humans.
I love it so much. Like, there's nothing really better than that. I like to look at, when I'm feeling down, or if I just need like a pick me up, I like to go watch videos of humans helping humans, humans helping animals, animals helping animals, animals helping humans, and you have all of that going on in one place.
Yeah, that's true. Look, it's all about love. And sometimes people ask us, well, why are you saving farm animals and not dogs? Or why are you helping animals and not people? And we say, no, we're helping everyone. We're putting more love and more peace and more gentleness into the world. And it's a circle of healing where we all lift each other up.
Yeah, I love to see how that goes around. And it's true, when we receive more, we can give more. If we're able to heal ourselves, then we're able to help heal others. If we're able to help others heal, we're able to help others heal. So it is just this ongoing wave of love that gets to roll through the universe, really. And you're so beautiful to be doing that. I always think it's a weird question anyway. Why are you doing this and not this? And it's like, but I mean, because someone has to do both of them, and I'm going to do this one. Like, right? Like, why not do this?
Yeah, we're
There's
all kind of born knowing who we are and why we've come, and we all have a song inside of us to sing, and you just have to follow the things that make you feel alive and make you feel happy and do that. And then, of course, there's other people to do the other things. We all just have to be who we are.
Yeah. Well, and clearly, I feel like it's growing. Maybe you had the 3 locations when we talked last, but I felt like you maybe only had 1, or maybe I was just misunderstanding. But is your goal to grow even more?
We are really hoping to expand to New York, and we submitted a very extensive application and a huge interview process, and we are waiting for them to say yes. So everybody keep your fingers crossed and
Yeah.
think good thoughts that we get to expand to New York. We would really like to do that.
Oh, this is the best audience ever for putting good vibes into things. So I like your chances here.
All
Uh,
right.
that's so cool. So should we get into the new book, Cow Hug Therapy? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I would love to. I'm really excited about my second book. The first book, called My Gentle Barn, is about the origin story of the Gentle Barn and me and Jay and the founding animals and our programs. But the second book, Cow Hug Therapy, it's all about these extraordinary animals and all the life lessons that they have for us. It's about their stories of resilience and how they taught me and they teach all of us about self care, meditation, the importance of gratitude and surrender, how to recover from grief, how to combat compassion fatigue. All the best parts of me as a human were taught to me by animals. And I can't wait to share their stories and their lessons for all of us.
I love this book. I wasn't able to read all of it. The parts I read were so beautiful and so uplifting and so inspirational and just so true. And like you said, it shows us about ourselves and our process too. I want to share this story with you because I know you'll love it. My chicken, one of my chickens just recently passed away from old age or whatever, right? She was an older chicken. And right before she was on her way, we knew I do a little animal communication myself. Like I understood she was going to leave soon. And but so did all the other chickens. And when we would look out there, when we weren't, when we weren't in the way, possibly offering snacks or whatever, and they were just left on their own, they would circle around her and sit around her in a circle and just be there with her. I still almost makes me cry because I'm like, how we don't even always do that for each other. And the chickens do that for her. They knew she was on the way out and they knew that she needed that support and they circled up and gave it.
That is so beautiful. And
It's
yes,
so beautiful.
animals are so connected intuitively, and they do come together in family, and it's beautiful. And the quote unquote real world is so busy separating families and taking babies away from their moms. But when animals live in sanctuary, like the Gentle Barn, we can really see their intelligence, their affection, how they operate as a family. And my God, they have so much to show us and teach us.
Yeah, they wanna be together. They know who their brothers and sisters are. They know who their parents. Like, the fact I know we talked about this last time, but that people think that they don't, it just blows my mind. I was like, "I guess you haven't spent that much time with animals." They're much smarter than most people think.
Yeah, I hear people all the time saying that animals can't tell time. And it's like, you know what? Then you are not paying attention because
Yeah.
they absolutely do.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that my chicken was able to tell me she was gonna die soon, I don't know that people do that, right? Like, not all the time. Some people seem to know and communicate it, and some people don't.
You
So,
know, I write in my new book, Cow Hug Therapy, a lot about that because,
yeah.
especially with the cows, matriarch cows, their role is to raise the babies, discipline the teenagers, love all the members of her family, lead guided meditation. So they're all meditating together. And they're absolutely together when someone passes away. They form a circle around the one that's passing. And once the circle is fully formed, the matriarch will step forward, rest her chin on the back of the cow, stay there for several minutes, saying goodbye, bidding farewell, paying her respects. And then when she's ready, she'll step back into the circle. And then every single member of that family take turns paying their respects to the one passing away. They are absolutely beautiful the way they honor each other in birth and death and grief. Oh, it's so beautiful.
It is beautiful. This is the type of thing too where I feel like scientists are so confused about life often, but this is one of the things where I can't remember what animal they were like, oh, it was some sort of primate, right? And they were like, we've finally seen like something like a ritual. And I'm like, but we can find that actually a lot. Like what you just described is a beautiful ritual, right? They pass this down to each other.
Yeah, and how egocentric for us to think that we're the only ones that do that. Come on, family is family, loved ones are loved ones, societies are societies, and of course these animals practice rituals sometimes far better than we do.
Yeah. Well, like you're talking about the meditation too. So this is one of the things that animals have this effect on humans, right? Where it lowers our blood pressure, it lowers our heart rate. And really, it's like we're getting more into a meditative state when we're with them. It's because they're so naturally great at this. But tell us about the meditation and how you learn that they do this and maybe a story about it.
Cows are very grounded, very centered. And while we as humans do more doing and having, cows and other animals do more being. They are very good at being, and we are not. And so our cows, whether they are young or old, male or female, whether they are in our Los Angeles location, St. Louis, or Nashville, they all have the same routine every morning. They have breakfast, they drink water, they go to the bathroom, they groom each other to really connect every single morning with one another. And then when they're done loving, they lay down and they meditate together for like an hour or two. And it's so obvious that they're meditating. Either their eyes are completely closed and they're still, or their eyes are kind of half open and they're staring blankly ahead.
Mhm.
And they're not present. They're not engaged. They are somewhere else, just like you would see anyone meditating. And their energy when they're meditating is off the charts. When we hug the cows while they're meditating, their energy is so grounded and centered and healing and powerful. It is an honor to be with them in that state. Now, cows generally meditate, I don't know, around 11, 12, 1 o'clock during the day, somewhere in that time frame between 11 and 1. And that's why we host our cow hug therapy specifically in that time frame, so that we can participate with them while they're meditating.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's so amazing you've learned that pattern so that you can time it that way so people can get this maximum benefit. Animals are such beautiful servants for us all, and hopefully we become better servants for them as well. But this meditation you're talking about and being able to teach us about that, but also when they're doing that, like you said, like they're somewhere else. And I feel like they're out helping people and each other and and then themselves. And that we could maybe learn something about that too, right? Of this like service that we can offer if we were more connected to ourselves.
Absolutely. 100%.
Do you feel, and maybe I asked you this last time, sorry if I'm asking it again, but I know some people feel that our animals can share some of our karma. Do you have an opinion on that? Or is that something you get into?
I think that each individual, whether human or animal, whatever species, we're all here for our own life lessons. We're all here for our own journeys, our own evolution. And we're intersecting with each other and affecting and impacting each other. So we all have a tremendous impact on each other. We teach each other lessons. We resolve each other's karma. I talked to a dog a very, very long time ago, and he was chained to the side of his house on a concrete slab. I knew him through people who knew people, and I discovered him and thought, like, this is no way to live. This is unconscionable. I've got to get that dog out of there. And I started working with the people that knew the people that knew the people to see if we could rehome that dog. And we were getting close. There was resistance, obviously, to the family, but we were, doing our thing. And at some point I said, I should probably talk to this dog and let him know, hang in there. We're coming. We're going to get him out of there. And so I asked permission to speak with him, and I spoke with him. And I was absolutely flabbergasted when he told me, please don't take me from here. And I said, oh my God, why would you say that? You're living outside in the cold on a concrete slab hooked to a house. Why would you say that? And he said, there's karma between me and this family that you won't understand, and it's not yours to understand, but I'm paying off a debt here, and I am here for a reason. Please do not take me. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But of course, I honored him and left him there to fulfill whatever karma was going on. They had a contract, him and this family. There was something playing out that is not mine to understand.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff in the universe that we will never understand. And hopefully when we transition ourselves out of these bodies, maybe we'll get some answers. But there's a lot of things going on in this universe that are not ours to understand. And we have to understand that there's a higher intelligence playing out. And sometimes we can impact change, and other times we leave things be to play out as they're supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much wisdom in that. And I love that, because you really do have to follow some, what I would call my higher guidance in these situations. Cause yeah, our human heart, our human mind is like, save that dog. Like, right. Like, I'll do anything to save this dog. But there's this other reason you couldn't have known unless you asked, or unless you had this ability to do that. Sometimes it would be otherwise, I'm sure, where it would be like, yeah, please save me. Right.
Oh,
Um, yeah. I remember there was a fur seal at an aquarium that I went to, and I hated zoos and I hated aquariums because I knew and I had heard all the animals' anguish and how much they hated being stuck in these places. And I had to go anyway for an assignment, whatever. I went there. There's this fur seal. I'm talking with her and I'm like, I'm so sorry that you're here. I have no part in it, but I just am sorry. And I hope that you can forgive humans for doing this to you. And she was like, I'm not upset at humans for putting me here. And I was like, why? And she was like, because, and I actually couldn't understand the rest. And I know now the reason I couldn't understand the rest was because of my own bias, that there could never be a reason that was okay, right? But I learned later that that aquarium was just about rehabilitation. She was trying to tell me because I was hurt and they're helping me and they'll let me go again, but I couldn't even accept it as my own human stuff. So similar sort of thing, like we have to maybe sometimes step outside of ourselves and wonder what else could be going on. Have you had that? Yeah. Have you had that type of conversation with any of the other animals that have come about the karma that might have had to do with their situation prior to coming there or being able to come there?
Well, I had a crazy conversation kind of similar to yours where I was on the freeway. We were traveling between our Missouri location and our Tennessee location, and there's long stretches of roads there, and there's a lot of slaughter trucks. And it's really painful to drive those roads because you just want to stop the trucks and anyway.
Yeah.
So we were driving and the traffic was actually going quite slow, and there was a slaughter truck right next to us. And I was like, oh my God, do I close my eyes? Do I look? Do I not look? If I'm not looking, am I a coward? If I'm looking, how am I going to bear looking into their eyes and driving away? It was awful. So finally I said, well, I'm not going to be the person that turns away. I'm going to be the person that looks, and I'm going to be the person that apologizes. So I looked, and there was this beautiful cow looking out the hole or whatever to me, and we locked eyes. And I said, oh my God, I have to talk to her. So I closed my eyes and I asked permission to speak with her. And I said, I'm so sorry this is happening. I'm so sorry. I'm working so hard to awaken the hearts of humanity so that this won't happen anymore. And she said, oh, don't cry for us. She said, we're going home. I'm taking my family home. Going home is the most wonderful thing that could ever happen to anyone. Don't cry for us. And then I was spinning out. I was thinking, okay, I've done this work for decades, trying to open the hearts of humanity so people will stop doing what we're doing to animals and will make gentler choices. And here's this cow that's saying it's okay. So now all of a sudden, is it okay to eat animals and do what we do? And I was really confused.
Yeah.
So later, when we arrived, I did this meditation asking my guides, like, could you help me see this a different way? Because I'm kind of having a really hard time with this. Like, should I just go to the Gentle Barn and go bag groceries? Am I wasting my time? And what they said to me really, really impacted me. My angels and guides explained to me, you don't have to cry for the ones going home. Because like she said, going home is the best thing that can happen to any of us. The work that you're doing is not to save the ones going home. The work that you're doing is to save the darkness on this planet for the human beings that are capable of snuffing out that light, of taking away babies from moms, of abusing and neglecting these beautiful angels. That's the darkness on this planet. That is the sin. That is the miss. That is the thing that needs to be corrected. And that's the work that you're doing. And I was like, wow, that's really deep. That's really deep.
That's really deep. It's beautiful. It makes so much sense as well. Thank you for sharing that. Speaking of karma and also speaking of going home, you have a chapter called Karma, and it begins with a quote. There is no such thing as death. Our loved ones step out of their bodies, but they are always with us. Why did you start that chapter with that quote? What is this to do with karma?
So when I was editing my book and writing my book, I had the suggestion from somebody that was helping me edit that we could do quotes on the start of each chapter from like famous people or spiritual people. And I said, you know what? I don't want to use quotes from people. I want the animals to have their own quote. So each chapter is about a different animal. So I went into an animal communication with each of them and I asked, what is your quote? What do you want to say? And they gave it to me. And so each chapter starts with a quote from one of our animals, which is so cool to be able to.
It took me a minute to put it together because one of them's name is Buddha. So I was like, oh, quote from Buddha. And then I realized like these are quotes from the animals.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So Karma is a cow.
So Karma is a cow. She was our matriarch for many, many years. And the story that I told where Witness, our cow Witness, was passing away and the cows formed a circle and the matriarch went first to say her goodbyes. The matriarch was Karma. And the extension of that story was once all the cows had said goodbye and bid farewell to Witness, the vet arrived and they left me and the vet to kind of help her with her final steps to the other side. And I felt so honored to have been part of that sacred goodbye ritual that I wanted to remain connected to the cows. I didn't want to just leave the barn quite yet. So I hung around, and when the dinner was over, the cows returned to the barn. And I said to Karma, I'm so sorry for your loss. And she said, what loss? What are you talking about? And I said, well, Witness just passed away. And she said, oh, you humans just don't get it. And I said, what am I missing? And she said, there is no loss and there is no such thing as death. Witness didn't die. Witness stepped out of her body and she's right here and we can talk to her and be with her anytime we want. And it took me a good decade to really digest her wise words. Now, as an animal communicator with clients all over the world, my favorite part of animal communication is talking to animals that have crossed over. And time again, they tell us, we haven't gone anywhere. We're right here. Our connection is still intact. Our love will never die. Just this morning, you were singing me the song, or just this evening, you were sitting with your other cat and you were thinking this and that. They literally give me proof of what their people are doing in present time to say, I'm right here.
Yeah.
And that's what Karma was trying to teach me.
It's so beautiful. It's so hard for people sometimes to hear that too. They're like, but what do you mean? Like, I still don't have them here. And, there is like the biological grief of not having this physical presence anymore, especially because so many of us are so poor at sort of perceiving the other side, right? Whatever we want to call these things. And so it's hard. And I did see one of my chickens that was the best friend of that one chicken who had passed. She went through that same sort of adjustment period, right? Where she was very aware her friend wasn't there anymore. And at the same time, when I would ask her about it, it was the same sort of energy. She's like, well, I know she's right here. She's right here. Like she didn't go anywhere. But also there was that grief too. So it's just like people sometimes, even if your people are still here with you, it's still hard, right? There's still that adjustment.
It is. And, several years after that experience with Karma, her son passed away and she was in deep, deep, deep grief. And I remember talking to her and saying, hey, I thought you told me there was no such thing as death. I thought it was no big deal. And she said, there's no such thing as death and our loved ones are always with us. However, we have every right to grieve the loss of our physical relationship. She said, I groomed him. We ate together. We slept together. We played together. We had a very rich physical relationship, and I'm still on the physical plane, and I miss our physical relationship, and I get to grieve it. And I was like, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's both, to go through both. Well, then let's talk about Buddha. Since I mentioned Buddha. Buddha's quote is, "We are not our circumstances, our bodies, or our pain. We are much greater than that." How did Buddha embody this quote?
So first of all, Buddha is the cow over my shoulder.
Ah,
She was our very, very first cow that we rescued.
wow.
She was the creator of cow hug therapy, which is why we've done it for the last 25 years. And I write about this in cow hug therapy. When she started getting elderly, her tendons in her legs started shrinking. So instead of um, legs that were straight, they started bowing out, and it got harder and harder and harder for her to walk. And I was desperate to have more time with her. So I brought acupuncturists and massage therapists and medicine and energy healers and music therapists and all this stuff. And she kept looking at me saying, I am not my circumstances. Don't look at me with pity. Don't look at me with concern. Don't look at me thinking you have to do all this stuff. The stuff that you're doing is not for me. It's for you. She said, I'm fine because I am not my body. And I was like, what are you talking about? Look at your legs. I'm like, this is awful. I need to help save you. I need to help you feel better. And she said, no, you're doing that for you. I am not my body. And God, it took a long time for me to figure out what she was talking about, because sometimes our animals talk in such advanced concepts that it takes us mere mortals time to really figure out what they're saying. But what I realized was I was doing those things for me. I felt helpless. I was desperate for more time with her. So I was doing those things so that I could feel like I was doing something. But really, she didn't need those things because she was more powerful than her body. She was more expansive than her circumstances. She knew who she was. She knew how powerful she was. And her body was a reflection of what she wanted to happen and what she was manifesting. And I didn't have to get in the way of that or save her.
Mm. Yeah, that's another hard one for people, right? When we see something or someone in pain, like we want to end it. Most of us, I'd say, or the people I know, people I spend time with. And yet sometimes that's not what someone's even asking for, right? Like they're actually just asking for you to just be there with them, not judge it, not try to make it stop or go away necessarily, and just be present. And I think that's harder for people to do than try to throw everything at it and try to make it stop, right?
It really is. And that's why, I mean, this was a long time ago. Now I practice asking them what they want and need, and I follow their requests. That's it. I had another cow that I write about in the book Cow Hug Therapy named Lucy. And she has an extraordinary story, but at the end of her life, she was laying down and couldn't stand up. And there again, I asked her what she wanted and needed, and she said, I am complete. Help me go. And I am sad to say and embarrassed to say that I didn't listen to her.
Ah,
I put her through medication and acupuncture and water therapy and put her in a water tank to see if we could buoy her to the surface and get her up on her legs. And the whole time she kept looking at me like with almost like with pity, like, she just look at that poor human flailing around, and she can't let go.
yeah.
And by the next day, nothing that we had done worked. And she looked at me and she said, please listen to me. I am complete. I am ready to go. Please don't put me through any more of that tomfoolery. And I said, I'm so sorry, I won't. And we helped her go. I'm better at listening now. I am better. I am much better.
Well, it's the same sort of thing, right? Our own bias and our own understanding and our own stuff is just, it's there. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just like we have to learn what it is. And so we can step outside of it and actually hear someone or a cow who is also someone. I call my chicken people, chickens, I should say. But I was thinking when you're saying that there's this idea that if we, and I feel like in animal communication, it's harder because they are people to I'll say to you, because I don't consider myself an official animal communicator, but It's harder maybe because especially if we understand karma, we don't want to be the one who killed the animal, right? Like, then we're like, "Oh, I've killed something now, and there's some karma to this." But at the same I'm always thinking, "But if it's merciful, it's not the same type of karma. It's a totally different karma," right? So, I don't know if that played into it for you or not, or if you have thoughts about that.
Yes, I mean, it's a huge responsibility to end someone's life and to, help them out of their body. Huge responsibility. And I think that that's why animal communication is so important, because when you listen to the animal and you get their directive, then the responsibility is less on our shoulders and we're just serving them and their needs. So it takes the weight of that heavy responsibility off of us. Um, but I think that killing is taking
Yeah.
someone's life with malice, with ill intent, taking someone's life that wants to live, taking someone's life for our own benefit. I
Mhm.
think that's in a whole different category than someone who is ready to leave their body and we are merely helping them out.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a very, very important distinction.
Very important. Yes. There's so many applications of that, and I think when I think of karma, I don't think of this just, like, black and white rule book that's like, "Oh, nope, you broke that rule, like, now you got some bad karma." It's much more like, "No, what's actually going on? What's the quality of it? What are the intentions behind it? What's the, um, circumstance?" This is all really important in understanding what's actually going on, and like you said too, in other things we've talked about tonight, that there's contracts and understandings as well that are actually the karma balancing, not new karma occurring, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Um, so I have a few more of the quotes that I really liked, if that's okay for me to keep sharing a few more of those.
Oh, I love it. Yes, please.
I really also loved Dudley, and Dudley said, "We are all here for a greater purpose. We must not be limited by what others think of us, but rather must define ourselves and show the world who we are."
Mm. That's amazing. I love that quote. So Dudley was amazing because he had an injury when he was young and lost a foot.
Hmm.
He came to the Gentle Barn and we made a prosthetic for him. He spent an enormous amount of time at the Gentle Barn working with children in foster care, working with human amputees, working with war veterans. I mean, he gave people so much joy and so much hope. But he also spent a lot of time in the hospital. And there were so many people that would look at that and go, "Oh my God, is this a life? Look at how much time he spent in the hospital. Are you sure you want to make him suffer like this?" And they didn't understand the work that he was doing in that hospital. That hospital treated cows from the meat and dairy industry. Their job was to get them well so that they could go to slaughter or go back to the farms and keep having babies that were then taken away for slaughter.
Wild.
Um, they were obviously had a lot to, the vets and the nurses and stuff and the techs, they had a lot of work to do. They had to work at a fast pace. They had to get things done. Meanwhile, these cows were absolutely terrified out of their minds. They had never witnessed human kindness. They knew what was going to befall them and what their lives were about. And so they were frozen in terror. And so to make these cows move and go and do what the people needed them to do, there was a lot of treatment that we would never implement at the Gentle Barn. They would do things to these animals that we just never would do. And when we went to the hospital, we talked to all the orderlies, the doctors, the nurses, the techs, and we made it very, very clear that Dudley was not to be treated that way. That if you want him to move forward, you don't, twist his tail or twist his ear or punch him or do anything horrible. You lead him into the squeeze with a cookie or a peppermint or a peach. You give him a minute to figure out what we're asking. You tell him what we're asking so that he understands. And the same way, once he's in a squeeze and they've treated him, to get him to back out, you don't kick him in the forehead. You ask him politely to move back. You offer him a cookie or a peppermint or some kind of incentive. And so we worked with the doctors and the nurses in that hospital on how to humanely get a cow to move and how to engage with that cow like a patient and not an object. And he revolutionized that hospital so much so that when he passed away 2 years ago from complications from a surgery, it was the doctors and nurses in that hospital that were crying just as hard as we were. And to see doctors and nurses that have worked with cows for I don't know how many, years, dozens of years, treated them like objects, not gotten attached, and all of a sudden this cow, Dudley, comes in, wins all of them over with his joy, his sense of humor, his affection. I remember when he first arrived at the hospital, I would go in and I would meditate with him and I would cuddle him and I would sit with him. And the doctors and nurses kept coming by every 5 minutes and saying, you got to get out of there. He's a bull. He's dangerous. You don't know what he's going to do next. If you get injured, it can't be our responsibility. And I kept showing them he is not dangerous. He is not an unintelligent object. He is a being that understands our intention. He is here looking for help. And I remember one time the doctors and nurses were going on their rounds, and I didn't know they were going on their rounds. I just knew that I was hanging out with Dudley, and we had both fallen asleep. I was in his stall. I was spooning him, and we had both fallen asleep. And I woke up and looked up, and there were like 15 doctors and nurses looking in on us with stunned faces because they had never seen a human being spoon a cow before. And we really got to show them who these animals really are when they're treated gently and kindly. And he changed their hearts forever. And he created a new model inside that hospital that had never been done before. And all the cows, till the end of time that are now currently, as we speak, in that hospital are treated gently because of Dudley.
Oh.
So one of the things that we learn when we're really practicing and studying animal communication to do it professionally is to identify our own projections and to eliminate them and get rid of them so that we can be a blank slate and a neutral place for the animals to speak. Our thoughts and feelings don't matter. What matters is to be neutral so we can receive what they're saying.
Yeah, that neutrality is key. I'm going to say in all spiritual communication of all types. So it's really beautiful to see that there. So they changed how they actually operate because of Dudley.
Yes, and there's Dudley's picture on the wall and a plaque dedicated to him. And the doctors and nurses still talk about him and teach from him.
Wow, it's so beautiful. It's one of those things where I'm like, it wasn't that obvious that it took Dudley to teach you. Like, you didn't know that you could just ask them and like help them along. But that's how it is. I mean,
yeah, no one ever came up with, just offer them a cookie.
like, what would you want, right? Like the golden rule here. What would you want? So I wanted to say too, Dudley is a special name to me. I had a chicken when I was little. I don't only have chicken stories. This is just happenstance, but I had a chicken when I was little and she was separate from the flock for this reason. And so I had this little baby. I raised her. She imprinted on me. Like, she loved me. We were best friends. I was very young, so I didn't really understand that was weird. She rode around on my shoulder. I took her to school in a little box sometimes and like had her at school. And then one day my parents were like, you can't actually have a chicken that lives in your bedroom with you. Like, that's not okay. She has to live outside. And the flock would not accept her. And I did not understand what was going to happen, but they were like, she has to sleep outside. And so she died because she's, even though she was an adult, more closer to an adult, it's like she didn't understand that world. She didn't understand coyotes. She didn't understand hiding in a tree. And I didn't know that she didn't know. So that was really sad for me. It was a really hard loss. This chicken that just recently passed away was Dudley come back again. We got to actually spend her whole life together in a good way and like no terrifying throw you out at night on accident because I didn't know better. And Dudley was her name originally, but I didn't realize it was Dudley again for a while. So she had a different name the second time, but I love that name for that reason.
And that's so beautiful that you recognized her, because when we have journeys that are interrupted, there are many times where they'll come back to us and we get a redo. I love that you knew it was her. That is so beautiful. So many times our animals return to us and we keep thinking, wow, they bark just like, so-and-so, or wow, they do that just like so-and-so. But they're not realizing it is so-and-so coming back to do a do-over.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and sometimes you can just see it with people with their animals. You're like, you two, you've got a thing going on here. Like, this has been a while. Who knows how many lifetimes. So that's really beautiful too. Have you actually, speaking of that, have you understood any returning souls or lifetimes sort of between you and any of the animals at the Gentle Barn or?
Oh, so many times. We had
Oh,
this goat named Bambi who we rescued him as a baby, and we absolutely loved him to pieces. He was, like a dog. He came when we called him, and he followed us around, and he let people hug and hold him, and he was wonderful. And this was back in the day where Jay and I, Jay's the co-founder of the Gentle Barn, and my husband, we never took vacations ever. And we had to go down to San Diego for some reason, I can't remember. And we were away for a weekend, and we never left except for this one weekend. And Bambi fell ill and passed away while we were gone, and we didn't get home in time. And it was awful. It was awful. And a few years later, we rescued this goat named Ryan, and I very quickly realized, oh my God, this is Bambi, isn't it?
oh.
And he lived till like 15.
Wow.
And I got to be there when he passed away. I got to hold him. I got to kiss him. I got to sing to him. I got to walk him home. And it was like that whole horrible circumstance was corrected. It was a redo. We got to fulfill a different path together. It was wonderful. And I've had so many animals come back to me. I could probably write a whole other book just about reincarnation alone.
That'd be great.
And what I'm learning, not just from my own animals, but from my animal communication clients, I am learning that it happens way more often than we realize. There are angels and guides that will pop in for a visit and then leave. And then there's soulmate animals that follow us throughout our entire physical life. And they'll come and they'll go and they'll come and they'll go, and they follow us our entire lives. And one of the telltale signs when you're interacting with an animal that's been with you before is when you meet them, it's not an introduction, it's a reunion.
Yeah. You really just feel it. You're like, we know each other, right? This is too good. I love that. And I also, for the people out there who might be being like, well, I don't know if my animals ever come back. Like they probably have, or again, they're right next to you right now. They're like cheering you on. They're loving you. Like they're with you. So just because you don't necessarily see them physically, perhaps for now, but who knows what the future holds. Okay. This is one of my favorite quotes of all too in the whole book. And maybe I've said that already, but they're all my favorite. Chico says, no one can stop you unless you agree with them.
That's a really, really good one. And there is a real lesson in that for us. So Chico is a cow, and he had 5 other cows at the slaughterhouse with him. They were in a slaughterhouse. They were going to be processed. They knew it. And instead of saying, well, this is our fate, so here we go, he said, no, I don't agree. And he crashed through 3 fences, which by logical standards doesn't even make any sense how he did that. And he got out of that slaughterhouse, and he manifested his own happily ever after. He said, this is not going to be my story. This is not how my story ends, and I'm going to rewrite it. And so his quote is so powerful, because so many of us would be in that circumstance and say, okay, I guess this is where we die, and we agree with it. And he did not agree, and he would not agree until he created a different story. And we all have the power to do that. We all have the power to be in a relationship that is toxic, or a job that makes us miserable, or whatever circumstance we find ourselves in. Yeah, we can agree and think, well, there's nothing we can do about it, and we can suffer. Or we can say, I disagree with this. I don't agree with this. I am not okay with this. I am going to create something different. And we can problem solve, and we can manifest, and we can visualize, and we can create whatever story we want and whatever ending we want. And it's in our hands to either agree with our circumstances or disagree and create something else. And that's what Chico did.
And we can have superhuman sudden strength to crash through 3 gates if we are committed enough to this vision, right?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. Many, many years ago, we had another story that I don't write about in my book, Cowhog Therapy, but Cowhog Therapy is filled with stories like this. We had a pig named Suzy Q, and she was in a slaughterhouse with 2,500 other pigs. She was in line to be slaughtered. She saw it in front of her. She heard it in front of her. And all the other pigs were like, well, all right, we'll surrender to this. And she said no. And she crashed out of line. She crashed out of the slaughterhouse. I don't know how she did it. She ran down the street. She got picked up by animal control, and she got adopted by the Gentle Barn. She came home to us, and she lived a beautiful and extraordinary life. So we can agree to our circumstances or we can disagree. It's up to us.
I love that. This keeps coming back to me for the past few weeks over and over again. And it's this difference between us saying, like, why did they do this to me? Why did they do this to me? Right. And that's like the victimized aspect of ourselves. Or we can then say, why did I let them?
Yes.
That's the empowered side of ourselves, right? I don't agree.
Yes.
I love it. Good job. Good job, Chico. So, I maybe I know the answer to this, but maybe I don't. What do you hope this book accomplishes?
Oh my God, so many things. I hope this book assists people and supports people and inspires people on their own healing journey. I hope this book opens people's hearts to the intelligence, affection, and healing quality of animals and bonds them more deeply to who animals really are and changes their choices, maybe their eating habits, their purchase habits, to gentler ones so that we can protect these animals instead of exploit them. I hope that this becomes a calling card for the Gentle Barn and the healing work that we do and inspires other people to come and get cow hug therapy from us when they're hurting. And most of all, I hope that my book, Cow Hug Therapy, really illustrates that cows are a beautiful tribe. They are who we should be and who we will be when we awaken to love. And that cows around the world are holding space for us to remember who we used to be and to step back into and return to who we used to be and who we're meant to be when we're ready.
I love it. I just met this beautiful soul by chance too, and she was saying that she had gone into some communication with some cows, and she kind of saw, and I hope I'm representing this correctly, but she kind of saw or heard from like the soul of all cows, and it was sort of saying like, yeah, we're here for you. Like, we're in a contract with you. Like, we want you to get through this part of life, right? And we're here to serve humanity. And it was so beautiful, right? Like, this is a soul level agreement. Like, yeah, we've got you while you go dabble in the dark. Like, we'll try to hold your space for you, right? You'll come back.
Yeah, it's almost like what parents do for their teenagers and their young adult children. You know, we watch our children fall in love in bad relationships. We know how it's going to end, but we need to just hold that space for them. We see them making mistakes, substance abuse, smoking cigarette, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Even driving too fast on the freeway. Like, we see them making mistakes because that's what young people do. And we have to hold space for them to learn those lessons and to be wise and to return to a more mature state when they're ready. And it's almost like that's what cows are doing for us humans. They're looking at us, seeing us as decent, seeing us as capable, seeing us as the beautiful beings we're meant to be. And even when we make those horrible mistakes in treating them and all other animals in a way that is not decent, they're still going to look at us expecting us to be decent because they're holding the space for us to return to when we're done being dumb teenagers.
Yeah. They see our better self when we forget. How do you see our future as different than it is now in regards to our animals, whether it's cows or, some people keep spiders as pets now, like in all of these ways, what do you hope changes, or how do you see it as possibly different?
Look, this is the informational age, and so we can't be in denial anymore. The information is right at our fingertips, and we can see what exploiting, enslaving, and eating animals is doing for our body. We can see what it's doing to the rainforests, the oceans, and the planets. We can see what it's doing to animals. And whether it's for health, environmental reasons, or ethical reasons, more and more people are waking up. More and more children are coming onto this planet already knowing and practicing that love and that consciousness. When I became vegan 25 years ago, we were at 0.5% of the population, and now we're at, I think, 5 or 7% of the population. There's more vegan foods, more vegan restaurants, more vegan influencers. It is only a matter of time before it becomes the norm. And then the oddballs won't be us empaths and us vegans. The oddballs will be the people that are still blind and whose hearts are closed. And I think looking at the last 25 years and how much has changed, I know that the next 25 years is going to be bringing even more. And I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to live and watch it. I know that we have kindness inside of ourselves. I know that we have decency. More and more, we're bringing back that feminine energy. We are collaborating. We are communicating. We are lifting each other up. We are realizing that goodness is what we're here for, and service to others is why we're here. And we're just going to see more and more and more and more of it. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to play a part in it.
Well, it looks like you and the cows are holding our vision for us as we dabble through the dark. So thank you. Well, tell people where they can get the book, how they can connect with you, or anything else that you want to share with people about how to come be a part of this.
So my first book, My Gentle Barn, and my second book that just came out, Cow Hug Therapy, are available on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold, and signed copies can be found at gentlebarn.org. To book a cow hug therapy session, to find out more about the Gentle Barn, to donate to the Gentle Barn so we can save more animals and heal more hurting humans, you can go to gentlebarn.org. And to find out more about my animal communication, how it works, book a session. I also do energy healing and tapping. People can go to ellielaks.com.
Oh, I really encourage that too. And I haven't worked with you on that level personally, but I just know how much it can shift for yourself. Even if you can communicate with your animal, you can both receive from this process. It's a blessing in itself. And so that's really cool too. So yeah, there's a link right below wherever you're watching or listening as well to go to ellielaks.com. And so you can click over to there and I'm sure connect with everything that way too. And what are your final thoughts you want to share with people before we say goodnight?
My final thoughts are, first of all, thank you so much for watching and for listening and for loving animals with us. And come hug a cow when you can.
Beautiful. And fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. And this has been your analog electric concentric dose of wisdom, according to the Gentle Barn founder and animal whisperer, Ellie Laks. Ellie, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Well, animals hold the mind of God within them, just as we do. While we experience the world in a vastly different way and hold exceptionally differing gifts and abilities, we are only as far apart as we make ourselves. When we open to the truth that all beings communicate with us all the time, we become more capable of growth in our own empathic abilities, and we open up to accept our own spiritual and psychic natures. Allow yourself to open, always from the heart. And until you do, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first.
Waltz on a nimbus with an S of a gymnast. Stretch lung fitness, Mobius strip witness. Swim upstream through the fibers of infinity in the vicinity of infallible divinity. Outstretched arms, but flesh ain't allowed to taste it. No, so close as the moon bases above the light of dawn. Howling at the luna, gnawing at the wire into my organic computer. On the draw, it's the raw fallen star shooter. Rip the fabric of time, string theory suture. Past becomes the future, subconscious in the forefront. Lost the programming, obnoxious to the Lord's grunts. Tiptoe on obelisks, soaking nature's novelist. To the soul it's obvious, the optical ain't dominant. Matter seeming prominent to Gaia's drowsy occupants. Check the emerald documents, the depth of this is bottomless. Depth of this is bottomless. Bottomless. Depth of this is bottomless.